So the call to be an artist can be very challenging. And I want to talk about some of those challenges, some of my personal challenges through this journey in this video. Hello, 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 Mosaic Souls. Hey, Mosaic Souls, this is Rachael, Alexander, artist and Mosaic Soul mentor. And so today I really want to kind of work through some of the stuff that I've been journeying through and kind of working through recently, really recently. This is really raw. But the call to be an artist, I was going through some stuff, and I think it was because I was really sleep deprived. Been going through a lot just with trying to sleep well in my neighborhood. But one of the issues I was having was just this sort of feeling of like not believing in myself energy that was going on, that was like sitting at in my heart chakra. And I was thinking to myself, God, I thought I got over this, I thought this was, something I healed within myself. And I was talking to my spirit team, my divine team, my spirit posse. And I was, asking for guidance. I was like, I really couldn't receive the guidance, honestly, because I just was too tired and I needed to sleep more. So I kind of went back to sleep. But one of the things that was sort of coming up earlier was just sort of like this feeling of not feeling worthy of my desires, a little bit of an imposter syndrome. Like I'm not good enough, I'm not young enough, I'm not fill in the blank enough, right? Pretty enough or smart enough or whatever. That was kind of arising. And I think it was because I was really just sleep deprived, right? And just like not feeling at 100% energetically, But also just, one of the things that was kind of coming up for me, because this year, for some reason, at the top of 2024, like as soon as 2024 hit 12 o'clock my time, I just felt this surge of energy. Like I can't even explain it. I was on a high for like 4 hours afterwards. It just felt like this new energy came in. I don't know if that was just a personal thing or if that was like a planetary thing, but for me, like this year has been more energetically aligned. I feel lighter. I feel less heavy this year for some reason. And I don't know why that is. It just feels like something shifted in my energetic body and I feel lighter and I don't feel as heavy as I did last year. And it's funny because I didn't feel heavy last year, but I didn't realize how heavy I felt until this year came, right? So that's something that happened for me at the top of the year. But what was coming up is I've noticed is that maybe right now I'm going through this purging or cleansing of all that doesn't align with me and who I'm meant to be on the planet, you know what I mean? So all the old beliefs and old thought forms and old like, I'm not this enough, that enough, and the fear that I won't be able to support myself enough, and as an artist and as a creative. And when I say artist, I from being on this channel, if you're new to this channel, I'm an artist. I'm a multimedia artist, meaning I sing, songwrite, compose, visual artist as well, paint, draw, all that stuff. So when being an artist, there's definitely been this stigma growing up from just being in our society. There's always a stigma that you can't make it as an artist. Being an artist is not an actual viable career, right? Unless you're at the top like Lady Gaga or Beyonce or some famous painter or whatever, then you're not, that's not a safe bet, right? Which is so funny because if 2020 hadn't come around, people would realize that no fucking career at this point is a safe fucking bet, honestly. Like shit tons of people who thought they were in safe careers lost their careers in 2020. So it's funny to me, that this, stigma is still kind of very prevalent or predominant. I think it's lessening now more and more that more and more artists are sharing their journey, sharing that they're thriving and not just surviving. There's more artists now than ever thriving. And I was talking to this younger girl the other day, and she was like, she was gonna kind of follow in her mom's footsteps and go to college for, I think, medical or something, but she was like, but I really want to be an artist. She kind of said that. I was like, so what do you really want to do? Because she sounded kind of doubtful when I was talking to her about it. And she was like, I really want to be an artist. And so, being a beacon of light, I was like, yeah, you can pursue being an artist. I was like, I'm an artist. Like, I'm on my journey to becoming, full-time income with it. But like, there's a lot of artists that I know who are making a full-time living doing their art. This is like actually now would be the best time to do that, because back in the day you needed gallery representation, or you needed to be signed to a record label, or you needed all these things in order to pursue your art. But now it's like, it's direct to consumer, right? Like, it's true entrepreneurship in that, like, you no longer need, you know, distribution from these major houses. You can still pursue that route, and I'm not knocking anyone who does pursue that route, but, you know, just saying, as an independent artist myself, you don't really have to go that route in order to receive what you desire, you know, anymore. And so, you know, that's been something that's been kind of prevalent in my experience, and something that I've been pursuing more. But, you know, some of the old stuff was coming up, you know, like I was sharing, like, being an artist can be very challenging, because you have moments like I had earlier this morning when I was just feeling like I think what was happening, other than me feeling sleep deprived, was that I was my mind was trying to beat. I don't really listen to my mind. Like, I'm very aware that I'm not my thoughts. So sometimes when old thoughts come up, like, I will see that as an opportunity for me to heal, rather than sort of beat up on myself, right? But my mind was trying to beat up on myself, and it was like, oh, you know, you're so old, you know, why didn't you? Like, I've had many opportunities. I've been wanting to be an artist since I was like 5. Like, you go back and look at some of my journals and stuff, and artist thing. I've been drawing since I was literally 5. I wasn't necessarily the best drawer, nor did I actually take courses in drawing and stuff like that until I started getting older into my adulthood, you know. But even then, like, you know, like, this inner resistance to pursuing your art, you know, and my mind was trying to beat myself up for that. Like, I've signed up for courses literally like 5-6 years ago that I haven't even finished, that I haven't gone through. And I was, you know, as I've been starting this new daily habit of, like, just wanting to draw a day, and I want to get to the point to where I'm finishing a new piece of small little illustration of something every single day, you know. And my mind was sort of beating myself up, like, oh, you see, you should have finished that course. You would be so much further along, and all this stuff. Like, why didn't you do this? And you know. And I was thinking, damn, like, that's so interesting that this is coming up for me right now, you know, because so what? Who the cares that I didn't finish it 5 years ago? I'm here now, and now I have the energy to do what I want to do. Now I have the passion to actually sit down and practice every day. I actually look forward to picking up my you know, journal or my notebook or my sketchbook and drawing every day. I look forward to sitting down at my computer and producing music. I look forward to that, whereas I didn't have necessarily the impetus to do that before, you know. And so, you know, this is me working through what was going on inside of me, you know. I was just sort of in my mind was trying to berate myself for not, you know, pulling forward on self-actualizing in some of my dreams or whatever. And, you know, one of the things my divine team is always saying, compassion, grace, give yourself time, right? Because, you know, one of the things that, you know, that's not really talked about I feel like maybe people do talk about it. I think mental health definitely is talked about more. The artist journey is talked about more. But, you know, one thing that I haven't really heard many people talk about, and I don't want to use this as an excuse, but is the process of having a spiritual awakening. And also for me, like, that was my journey. I had like several spiritual awakenings, and they kind of led me down this sort of rabbit hole of just like losing my identity as a human being and being disidentified from my humanity, so much so that I no longer really had a desire to do much at all, right? So that identity of being an artist and even pursuing my arts in that capacity was no longer online for me for a number of years, you know, damn near 8-7 years of my life, you know. And so the term being an artist, you know, wasn't really online for me. Even though I was still creative and stuff during that time, I wasn't pursuing it like I am now. Also, another aspect that was, you know, my higher self was, you know, give yourself grace, was that, you know, I was kind of in a relationship that wasn't really conducive, that wasn't really equally yoked with me. And so a lot of that, I had to do a lot of healing, and it took me a year and a half, I think, now, you know, to this point where I feel okay. I feel good in my body. I feel good about my life decisions. I feel good about doing what I love to do, you know. Like, it took me a while, because I remember sort of even hearing, you know, things from loved ones that I grew up with, not having a good, you know, people barking in your ear about certain things, and it's just because they want the best for you. But that can be very disconcerting as you're growing into becoming an adult. They say our brains don't even fully form until we're like 30. Like, and so that whole time, like, you know, from childhood all the way up until like 28, 30 to 30, your brain is still like forming, you know what I mean? And you don't, like, you know, the decisions and choices that you make, it's like, okay, give yourself grace, you know what I mean? And so, you know, me choosing to be in a relationship that wasn't in alignment with my higher purpose, wasn't in alignment with who I came to be on the planet, in the sense that, you know, one of the things that I have you know, I don't compare myself to other people, but I do notice the difference, right? Like, it's hard not to compare. We all compare. I do compare myself to other people, but not in a negative way, right? Like, I don't like, oh, well, why don't I have this? No, it's more so like, oh, that's interesting. They had this experience, but my experience is this way. And it sort of informs me and my experience and what I'm wanting to manifest more in the future. But one of the things that has been, you know, aware of is, you know, some of the YouTubers or people other artists that I follow who have like these beautiful relationships that they've been in for, you know, a number of years, and their partners were like very supportive of their art and very supportive of their journey and helping them, pushing them to go after their art and stuff like that. And I was thinking to myself the other day, I was like, I wish I had that. That wasn't my experience. I wasn't supported, like, you know, from my partner in that, you know what I mean? It was very much so an energetic mismatch, you know, whereas I was sort of walking on eggshells trying to make sure not to upset the relationship, or always giving myself to the relationship and not really focusing on what I wanted to do, you know. And even when I would try to pursue my passions, there would be distraction or sort of like, you know, underlying sort of sabotage, or like, you know, wanting me to focus on that person or whatever versus me focusing on what I want to do. And it's a very toxic way of being, right? You know, it's a toxic relationship. And I call it toxic because it's imbalanced, right? It's not, I feel like, you know, the relationships that I see other creatives who do have supportive partners, you know, kudos to you. I wish that was my experience. Maybe my life would be different, you know, but I don't regret it, because I wouldn't be where I'm at right now in terms of like feeling so strong in myself and feeling so fortified in my yes factor of my yes to my dreams that you know, before I wasn't confident in myself. I wasn't, you know, and I'm still, or like I said, the thoughts come back up. They little like rise their head. You're like, you sure you don't want to play with us? I'm like, nah, go away. I'm good. We had our time. We had our fun for 15 plus years. I'm good. I don't need you in my ear. Okay, thank you for your, you know, for your experience in my life, but I'm good on this self-doubt and self, you know, berating and all this other stuff, right? But, you know, that wasn't my experience, you know, with the whole relationship thing. And so that took a big piece of my life, you know, like, I think for years I kept trying to make it work. You know, I was trying to make it work. And so I was giving myself over to this thing that I was trying to build that just wasn't working. And eventually, you know, like in 2021 or whatever, 2022, I finally was like, look, this is not gonna work. I've been trying for almost damn near 10 years and this ain't gonna work. So it's time for me to let it go. And so that was another piece that I had to give myself grace for. I wasn't truly myself. You know, I didn't really give myself the space to be myself because I chose a partner that was unequally yoked for me, right? You know, for those people out there who have that supportive partner who's like, you know, vying for you and like helping you shoot videos and helping you with your like, you know, content creation, or helping, you know, giving you encouragement and asking to see your work, you know, like I wish that was the case for me. You know, I wish, I do wish I had that experience where it was like, oh, my partner is like my number one fan. You know, that wasn't the case for me. So I had to give myself grace, you know, as I was kind of working through that the other day. Like, you know, as to why, you know, my mind is like, oh, why it took me so long to finally step online and start to actually pursue my passions, right? To actually actively pursue this thing called being an artist, you know? And so that was something that I just wanted to share, this journey that, you know, if you were ever in that type of situation like me, where maybe you were in a relationship that wasn't equally yoked, or maybe you had a spiritual awakening that kind of caused you to disidentify from your human self. Those kind of happen simultaneously at the same time. It makes sense that like when you kind of start grounding down your spirituality more and you're pursuing things that bring you joy, and you're trying to manifest more abundance, or not trying to manifest, but yeah, trying to manifest, just be real, trying to manifest more abundance and through pursuits that bring you joy, then it makes sense that, you know, to give yourself time and to give yourself grace and not to beat yourself over the head that you don't have all these, you know, accolades or things, you know, you haven't been featured in the paper or the news or all this stuff. Like, I don't have any of that, right? Like, I have been featured in things like when I was in my early 20s, like, you know, right out of college or in college and right out of college, you know, I was on radio stations and stuff like that, but not recently, right? So, you know, I don't have all these accolades, or haven't had the privilege of being able to sing in front of a symphony orchestra yet, or, you know, like seen my paintings or drawings in an art gallery. And then, you know, at the end of the day, what I really had to realize is that I'm not doing the work. You know, I wasn't doing the work even last year, you know, even though I posted that video, and I'm very proud of myself and the expansion and the like growth that I had last year into moving more into following my heart, you know, because it was in the year of the end of 2022 that I decided I'm going to pursue being an artist, you know, and then 2023 came around, and then I kind of was still weaving through that journey of like not pursuing it, wanting to pursue it, and like things kind of happening, and, you know, whatever. The whole thing, even though I didn't like accomplish as much as I set out to, this year now I can say I have the impetus and the energy and the excitement and the passion to do it, you know. And I have to give myself grace, you know, like to be in a relationship where you lose yourself, right? It takes a while, especially if you don't, you know, go to therapy, or you don't, you know, have an extra support system of people who understand what you've gone through, to re-identify who you are and come back online about what it is you want. So it's like aspects of me that were offline are like coming back online, and now I'm like recalibrating my energy, you know, recalibrating and figuring out who I am and what I want, you know. And it's very clear to me that being creative and expressing myself in the creative light is very important to me. It's very, very important to me, not because, you know, I need to prove myself or anything, but it's natural like I've always been creative, you know what I mean? And that's something that it just makes sense for me to pursue something that I'm just naturally good at, or naturally like have a proclivity towards, you know what I mean? So, you know, all this is to say, you know, give yourself grace. Being called to be an artist, especially with the old programming that is slowly falling away on our planet, is real, you know. And the process of, you know, coming back into realizing that the call is real. And one of the things that I'll share too, you know, because I don't know about, you know, like the spiritual warfare that be going on, like energetic, like, you know, it feels like when you are called to something, like there's this excitement phase, right? There's this passion and excitement phase. And then there's this other phase, like the hero's journey of like trial and tribulation, right? And then if you can pass through the trial and tribulation, then you'll get onto the other side of victory, right? But that trial and tribulation period can last for years, right? Like it can last for a long time. What I've noticed is like when I'm excited about something or passionate about something, that what ends up happening is that people who I would consider like not to be evil or whatever, but like I'll manifest certain people, like men for some reason are like my kryptonite. Not to say that like I don't like men or whatever, but like I've noticed that like I'll manifest people from my past or something, like come knocking on my door like, oh, hey, how are you? Let's hang out. Let's do this. And there's like, these people were very unequally yoked for me, right? But they want to come like appear in my life. And it's very interesting that phenomenon happens. So I feel like it's like almost like this trial tribulation, like you sure you want it kind of energy. And I've been I really pat myself on the back because I haven't fallen down that rabbit hole of like trying to get back into a relationship or trying to even entertain these random people who show up in my life that have no intention other than to try to use and abuse me in some way, form, or fashion. Not to say that people are all evil, but there's certain people that I've met, you know, people who kind of stalked me or like, you know, were just kind of like not healthy, like people who I've had to like, you know, call the cops on, or like, you know, like I've had some crazy stories and maybe one day I'll share it. Like I've had to journey through some of that, you know what I mean? And so to give myself grace to say that here I am now, I'm doing what I love to do more. And yes, I might be late, but there really is no lateness. Really, I'm exactly where I'm meant to be, right? I'm not gonna be mad at the tree for blooming, you know, 3 weeks later after I planted the seed. It's like, give the tree the time to freaking bloom, right? Like we all have our own times of blooming. You're not gonna plant a field one day and then come back the next day and say, did you harvest yet? It's like be real, you know? And so that's what I'm like. This message is for me as much as I'm sharing with you. Like, I had to be real with myself and just be like, it's totally fine. You know what I mean? And I might have planted some seeds in a garden full of weeds, and now I had to uproot those seeds and put them somewhere where the weeds weren't growing. And that's what my process has been over the past 3 years. And now I'm starting to like peek out of the ground. My bud is starting to form, you know, and I have to give myself time to like, you know, grow, you know, and it's totally fine, you know, to be wherever you are on your artist journey. So I just wanted to share this insight and like what I've been traversing and, you know, exploring on my own journey of being called to be more creative and being an artist, you know, and sharing my art with the world, you know, that this journey, you know, because of the upbringing on our planet. And, you know, I went to an all arts high school, and maybe I'll do a video on my journey at the beginning. I went to all arts high school, went to college for music, right? And music business or whatever. So I've been in the artistic field for a very long time, but even still, like before I even went to college, like I knew that there was not even like this, like, because I remember my senior year, like this whole beautiful artistic experience of us developing our talents and skills and stuff like that. And then when we get to our senior year, they're like pushing college really hard, you know? And I just thought that was so weird, because it's like, we did all this like 4 or 5 years of training to be an artist, but then you're still pushing us to go to college. Like, shouldn't you be pushing us into pursuing our passions and making art our full-time careers? Like, even, you know, high school was still pushing us. My all arts high school was still pushing us to go to college, you know, which is really weird to me, you know, but I don't regret going to college, because then I knew that the thing that I was missing was the business piece, which is why I ended up studying music business. Because I was like, I know that, you know, art is amazing, but like without the business aspect, you don't have a career. Like, it's still a form of entrepreneurship. And so that's why I started really getting into business in college, you know, taking marketing classes, economic classes and stuff like that, and starting to learn the business side of the music industry or whatever. But, you know, it's really interesting, you know, that phenomenon, you know, where it's like, even at an all arts high school that you think is preparing you to move directly into the artistic field doesn't quite push you into believing that you can do it on your own. No, you need more education, right? Not to say that education is bad and stuff like that, but it's like, oh, now you need to incur another thing of like hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt to go to art school to be an artist. Like, really? Like, and you know, that's one pathway. Not to say that pathway is wrong, but it's not the only pathway. And I just find it interesting. And to me, it just adds on to the phenomenon of this belief that artists can't make it, you know, like you can't pursue being an artist, you know, in whatever capacity. You can't just go to Broadway, or you just can't go to do this or whatever. Thank God we live in a time for YouTube, right? We live in a time for social media, and you can just start sharing your gifts with the world and hopefully find a like-minded community of people who resonate with you, your message, and your art form, you know? Thank God we have these tools now, and that we live in this time where you can pursue your passions more fervently if you could just pursue it and be consistent, you know, and not give up, you know? I think the biggest tragedy is just giving up on what you love to pursue and letting go of this idea that, oh, it's just a hobby. No, if you're called to be an artist, it's more than a hobby. It's your calling. You know what I mean? Not everybody, one, has the balls to do it, you know, to actually get up and pursue the thing that they're doing, do the thing. You know what I mean? Let alone let creativity flow through you, let alone show up and then also be an entrepreneur. Like, you're wearing the artist hat, and then now you're showing up and being the entrepreneur, marketing and selling yourself, and like, you know, finding other opportunities to bring in income so that you're a profitable business. You know what I mean? Like, that's a whole nother freaking ball game, you know? So it's not easy. It can be easier if we shift our mindset. And that's what my higher self has been telling me, like, to let go of the, you know, poor artist myth thing that's been kind of lurking in my subconscious, you know, and let go of that, and let go of, you know, because one of the things that was coming up for me is that in my mind trying to berate me was like, oh, you know, I would get these divine downloads for like my website, or like, yeah, so I'd get these visions for like my website or I get divine downloads all the time, right? And divine downloads, if you're new to this term, is just inspiration. I use that word for inspiration. I get insight or inspiration all the time. And so even though I would get inspiration, I wouldn't trust it. You know what I mean? I would execute like bringing the website to life in the sense of like working on it on my computer or designing it or something, or working on the song and stuff. But then I would stop. I wouldn't finish it, right? Like I would start these things, but I wouldn't finish them, right? And I was like, what is that phenomenon in my life? You know, that I start these things, I start all these things, I have all these projects or things that I've started and I haven't finished a lot of them, right? Why do I do that? You know? And, you know, I think my higher self was just kind of pointing to this sort of underlying finagling disbelief in myself of not feeling like I'm worthy enough, or who am I to want to start a Patreon, right? Or start my own like Patreon on my own website, or who am I, like who's gonna like buy into my stuff, or like you know. And it's so funny, I didn't realize I thought that way until I'm like looking at some of my other people that I've supported on Patreon before, or other artists that I admire, and looking at their Patreons, or looking at, you know, some of their business things that is going well for them, and just being like, if this person can do it, why can't I? Like, what is wrong with me? Why don't I think that I deserve that? You know, like, why don't I just think that I deserve to have support, you know, in my creative endeavors? Why do I feel like, you know, that I'm hurting someone by asking for support? Or, you know, it's just an interesting phenomenon. Like, I'm noticing that in my own mind that is playing out, that I'm still working through, honestly. You know, like, the fact that I don't, you know, one, I haven't been finishing set pieces, like whether it's music or actual art pieces, you know, like I start them, but I don't finish them. I sketch an idea, but I don't finish coloring it, or, you know what I mean? Or start drawing out a painting, but I don't finish it. So finishing up with that phenomenon, right? And just moving more into finished whole pieces this year, and finished whole like art forms, right? So that's something that I'm working towards this year and being more intentional about, right, this year. And letting go of that old piece of me that's like fearful that people will judge me or not like what I have to create, or whatever it is that going on within my subconscious, you know what I mean? Like there's this, it is like an underlying energy of like disbelief in myself. And I think that's why I've had this cycle of like starting things and not finishing them, or having a divine download and then doing nothing with it, you know what I mean? And that's a phenomenon that I haven't really heard many people talk about, right? That I've struggled with for years, literally years. I literally have a hard drives of unfinished ideas, sketchbooks, unfinished ideas, you know what I mean? And yeah, as I was thinking to myself, you know, this week, because of this surge of energy that came back online, I did a lot of spiritual work as well for myself. So I tapped more back into more of divine source energy. So I've been receiving more of my soul blueprint, which is why this stuff is coming up for me now, because it's like whatever's not in alignment is like shedding light, like this is not in your blueprint, heal it so you can release it, you know. Like that's what's coming up for me. So yeah, it's like looking at all of that old stuff, of these old patterns in my life, and just releasing that. That's something that I don't really hear people talk about much, you know, like that's some stuff, that's some real stuff. Started things and not finishing them, like that's a real issue. And it's funny because you feel the call to be an artist, like you feel the desire, you feel the excitement, you feel the passion, and you want to do it, but then there's this energy that stops you, like inwardly. That is not, it's the resistance, right? That I know Stephen Pressfield talks about in his book Art of War, or The War on Art, or something like that. And I read that book years ago. It's that, but it's even something different. It's the inner resistance. But, you know, for me, that's what I was facing, you know, inner resistance to having started something and not finishing it. Like was super huge for me. But then also dealing with like my own sense of self-doubt, and then it also being outwardly expressed in my immediate like love circle of people being like, oh, well, why don't you go get a job? Why don't you do this? Or why don't you like, oh, I have this friend who has this opportunity for you, you should check it out. And it has nothing to do with your art, you know what I mean? Like, and like having that be in your ear for so many years, it's like, of course you don't really believe in yourself, because one, you're not, you know, surrounding yourself with, you know, thriving artists who are doing what you want to do. And then two, like, you don't have positive, you know, people in your ear about what it is you want, and you yourself aren't speaking positive narrative in your own mind about your art, you know. So that's something else that I've had to recognize and journey through as well. And so the journey continues. It's not over. Yeah, I feel like I've been very long-winded, but I just wanted to share all of the stuff that I've been sort of journeying through this past week, all this old stuff that's been coming up, that's been in my life for years, and now I'm just so ready to move into this new version of me, right? Because it does feel like, what it feels like for me energetically is that like I've shifted into this different version of me. I don't feel like the same person. Like even looking at the video that I posted at the top of the year, right, about my 2023 year in review, right? Click here to look at a link about that. But I don't even resonate with that version of me that posted the video like 5 days ago. Like I don't even feel like the same person. Like I feel like a different person today than I did yesterday. It's really interesting. So it feels like I'm shifting very fast, right? Like I'm moving, like, you know, morphing and moving from parallel reality to parallel reality. And so I'm like calibrating this energy into my body, you know what I mean? And so all this old muck that no longer resonates with this new version of me is like being called forth and being like shining its light. Like my soul is making me shine light on it so that I can heal it, so that I can transmute it and transcend it, you know? And I think that's what's going on. And, you know, I think that's a helpful way of looking at it, because if I don't look at it that way, I will move into this like self, you know, berating or self, you know, loathing kind of energy, which is not helpful. It kind of makes you regress rather than progress. So that's one of the things that, you know, as a coach, that I know is a part of the journey, that like once you hear the call, there's the excitement phase, but then there's the sort of the trials and tribulations phase. And the trials and tribulations phase is just really you facing your own shit. Like facing all the parts of you that says that this call on from your higher self, from your soul, is not what you're supposed to do. So all the aspects of your subconscious mind, your energy, your body, the trauma, and all the stuff that is not in alignment with this version that your soul is calling you to be is now coming forth and brought forth for you to look at, so you can heal that shit. And once you heal that shit and go through all this because even like the naysayers and the people around me in my life, you know, because not to say that I don't have a supportive like loved ones and stuff like that, but the people who, you know, they don't mean to be, they are, but they're just a reflection of my own inner shit that I haven't dealt with, you know what I mean? And so I'm very aware of that. And so the more I heal this aspect of me, the more I will allow abundance in the various ways that they are meant to show up in my life, you know what I mean? Like those little inklings of, oh, someone joined your list, or someone, you know, bought a song, or someone purchased your artwork, or, you know, someone wants you to be featured on their thing or come perform at their show, or blah, blah, blah. Like those little nods from the universe is like, yes, keep doing what you love to do. Like you're moving in the right direction. Nothing has gone wrong. You just need to keep healing and releasing the shit, you know? Keep healing and releasing the shit. And once you release this shit and continue to shift into the version of you that you know you're to be, then that becomes your new modus operandi. But it takes a second, because if I, like me being 30-something-year-old, right, has spent 30 plus years on the planet operating in one way of being, then of course it's going to take me a second for me to get all of me back online to be in alignment with the version of me that already knows that it's done. You know what I mean? Even though I know that it's done intellectually, the rest of me has to get back online. And I'll link a video to my other channel where I talk about that. You know what I mean? Because it, you know, the whole manifestation process is not that, you know, it's hard to manifest. It's just really, the issue is just dealing with our shit and being willing to look at all the crap that's in our energetic bodies, you know, our minds, our emotions, our spirit, you know, in all our 4 bodies that we just have to align to. And so, yeah, this message is for myself as much as it is for you. So hopefully this has been helpful, me just sharing some of what I've been journeying through and traversing through. And hopefully this is an inspiring message for any of you creatives out there to continue to pursue your passions and know that, you know, you're on the right path, and that this is all a part of the journey. Even if you were called to be a scientist, right? Or you were called to be a damn, I don't know, technician or something. Like you're gonna face, and that's your soul's calling. What I've noticed is that, especially when you have soul callings, like that's something that I wanted to share on my other YouTube channel, but it's this, as soon as you have a soul calling, like be ready, because you're going to be called into facing all the dark aspects of yourself. You're going to have to do shadow work, because Like, just because you have a calling doesn't mean that it's going to just flow easily, you know? And I think that's kind of misperception in the spiritual community. Like, oh, you know, things are supposed to just flow and be easy and effortless. Nah, you're going to have to face your shadow, hun. That's life. Every aspect of you that says that you shouldn't be doing it, you know, from your mama to your, you know, your grandpa who had a dream but didn't pursue it, like fucking healing generational fucking wounds and shit. Like, you gonna have to go through that shit. Like, that's real talk. And so I feel like our generation, like this generation now, are some true spiritual warriors on this shit. Because it's like the work that we're doing to heal this stuff, we're literally healing generational curses, healing generational like wounds and patterns and things that just no longer serve, you know, our future generations. Because in order to be fully embodied as the soul beings, divine beings that we truly are, we gotta do this work. You know what I mean? Because it's like, we came from this society where, you know, our parents and our parents' parents and their parents' parents, like, they did the best that they could because we were in this survival mode for so long, you know, like, you just did what you had to do. Like, you couldn't pursue your passions. Pursue your passions, that wasn't even a thought. Like, you just had to get by, right? Like, especially people in the Black community, like, you know, in Black America, like, like, you didn't pursue your passions. You just did what you got to do to put food on the table, and so that you could, you know, make sure that your family ate, and, you know, if you were a woman, you took care of the house and, you know, made sure that the kids did their homework and like, you didn't have dreams of your own, you know what I mean? So that was sort of like the paradigm that we're coming from, right? And so now that we're healing that line, now that we have more freedom, technology, and less, like, you know, at least in the Western world, in America, we have more freedom, right, to pursue our passions. Like, this is new. Like, this whole new phase over the last 20, 30 years is new. It's new, you know, and giving ourselves grace to move into this new paradigm is so crucial, you know, now that I'm like recognizing, like, this is a new phenomenon, you know. We're on the planet. If you were born in 1920 as a Black woman in America, not to say that Black women in America in the 1920s didn't follow their hearts, but I'm just saying, like, the blueprint wasn't necessarily online, you know what I mean? Like, especially in the South, like, you weren't, you know, trying to make sure you weren't gonna get hanged or whatever the fuck they were going through back then. So now it's like, you know, especially like with my family from Trinidad, like my mom's side of the family, like, you know, several of my aunts, I was talking to my mom the other day in December, and they were saying, like, yeah, you know, some of my aunts and stuff had passions and skill, and uncles had passions and skills in the artistic field, but of course they never were able to really pursue it because, you know, it's just not what you did, because that wouldn't put food on the table, you know what I mean? There wasn't a free society now where we have Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, and you get online and you post some videos about yourself, and now people are like, ooh, I like what you do, where can I buy your work? Like, that wasn't available then. So it's like, it's okay to, like, give yourself grace and to move into that energy. Like, these kids that are coming up with that now, you know, like, I feel so happy that they get to have that, you know what I mean? So, like, with my generation and moving into that and just being like, okay, this is new stuff, you know, like TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff, this is like a new phenomenon in the last 10 years, you know what I mean? So, yeah, it's just interesting. So, having this talk is helping me to give myself more grace and self-love through this process, you know? Self-love through this process is so necessary. It's so necessary. So hopefully this is helpful for some of you who are out there. And keep keeping on, and I will talk to you guys soon. As always, flow with what feels good and let go of what doesn't, because you are divine. And definitely join my community in the link in the description box below. And if you're enjoying my content and want to support me further, feel free to become a patron in the link below. Feel free to click the link below to find out more about that. And thank you guys for watching. I hope that you guys keep flourishing and shining your light into the world. And I will see you guys next time. Peace, love, and light. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, then please give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already for more videos about my life, creativity, spirituality, and personal development. I'll see you in the next one. Peace, love, and light.